My name is Hannah. I am 23 years old, and I grew up with expectations heavier than my school bag. My family believed in education the way some people believe in religion. In our house, success was not a dream, it was a responsibility. My parents didn't ask if I would become something important. They talked as if it was already decided. She will be a doctor, my mother used to say proudly. Or a therapist, my father added, someone respected. We lived in the UK, in a quiet town where everyone knew everyone. People watched your choices, they remembered your mistakes, and they never forgot your family name. I was a good student, not because I loved pressure, but because I loved my parents. I didn't want to disappoint them. I studied late nights, weekends, holidays. While other girls talked about love and travel, I talked about grades and careers. I was accepted into a university in London to study psychology. Later, my goal was to become a licensed therapist, someone who helped others heal. My family celebrated like I had already won life. They didn't see how tired I was. University life was different. London was loud, fast, and full of freedom. People lived for themselves. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. That is where I met Ethan. Ethan was older than me by 2 years. He was studying engineering. Calm, intelligent, serious, not the type who chased attention. He spoke carefully. He listened deeply. We met in the library. At first, it was simple. Study talks, coffee breaks, long conversations about stress, future plans, and family pressure. He understood me. You don't live for yourself, he once said gently. You live for expectations. That sentence stayed with me. Slowly, friendship became comfort. Comfort became attachment. Attachment became love. I had never planned to fall in love. Love was not on my schedule. But love does not ask for permission. Ethan supported my dreams. He said he was proud of me. He said my family was right. I would become someone great. I trusted him. When two adults love each other, they sometimes make decisions believing they are safe. I believed we were safe. But life does not care about belief. Months later, everything changed. I found out I was pregnant. My hands shook when I told Ethan. My voice felt small. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He went silent. This is complicated, he said. Those words cut deeper than anger. He said he wasn't ready. He said his career mattered. He said timing was wrong. He said my family would never accept it. Slowly, the man who once held my hand started pulling away. My family noticed something was wrong. You look distracted, my mother said. You should focus. You have a future. I carried a future inside me too. But I carried it alone. Ethan stopped answering calls. He stopped meeting me. When I saw him on campus, he looked through me like I was invisible. I was breaking quietly. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my professors. I told no one. Because I was supposed to be strong. Because I was supposed to become someone great. And I felt like I had failed at everything. Started living in 2 fears at the same time. One fear was about my family. The other was about myself. Every morning I woke up early, got dressed, and went to university as if nothing had changed. I sat in lectures. I took notes. I answered questions. My professors praised my focus. My classmates saw a quiet, ambitious girl who was doing well. They didn't see how my hands shook under the desk. They didn't see how my heart raced when my phone stayed silent. They didn't see how heavy my body felt. At night, when the city finally slowed down, everything came back to me. I would sit on my bed and think about my parents, about how they talked about my future with pride, about how they told relatives, she will be a therapist, she will help people, she will be respected. Respected. That word felt cruel now. I imagined their faces if they knew the truth. I imagined the disappointment, the silence, the shame. I imagined my mother asking, "How did this happen?" And my father looking away, unable to speak. I couldn't breathe when I thought about it. I tried calling Ethan again. I told myself I only wanted clarity. I only wanted honesty. He didn't answer. When he finally replied days later, it was a short message. "We need time. This is too much." Too much. I was carrying too much. But he was walking away from it. I went to my university counselor once. I sat in the waiting room and stared at the wall. When it was my turn, I stood up and then sat back down. I told myself I could handle it. I told myself strong people don't fall apart. That was the biggest lie I believed. Weeks passed. My body changed slowly, quietly. I started wearing loose clothes. I stopped looking in mirrors. I avoided people. I stopped eating properly. My grades began to slip. One of my professors called me into his office. "Hannah," he said kindly, "you're talented, but something is wrong, you don't seem present." I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to say, "I'm scared, I'm alone, I don't know how to fix this." But instead I smiled and said, "I'm just tired." That word again. Tired. My family called often. "You sound different," my mother said. "You should come home this weekend." The thought of going home terrified me. "I have exams," I said quickly. She believed me. They always believed me. That made everything worse. One evening I saw Ethan on campus. He was laughing with friends. He looked free, light, untouched. Something inside me broke. I walked up to him. "Please," I said quietly, "we need to talk." He looked uncomfortable. He glanced around. "This isn't the place," he said. "There is no place anymore," I replied. He sighed. "I can't do this," he said. "You're ruining everything, my future, your future." Ruining. That was the word he chose. I stood there, unable to move as he walked away. That night, I cried until my chest hurt. Not because I lost him, but because I realized I was completely alone. I thought about my family again, about their dreams for me, about the way they had sacrificed so much so I could study in London, about how they believed I would become someone important. I felt like I had destroyed their hopes without even telling them. I felt like I had become a problem no one wanted to solve. I started writing letters in my notebook, not to anyone specific, just words. "I am sorry. I tried my best. I didn't want this. I didn't plan anything at first. I just wanted the pain to stop. But pain doesn't listen." One night, after another unanswered call, after another wave of fear, I felt something dangerous. Relief. The idea that everything could finally be quiet. I thought about my parents. I thought about my child. I thought about how much I wished things had been different. I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live anymore. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. When my family got the call, their world ended. Not because of gossip. Not because of shame. Because they lost their daughter. They came to London and stood in a city that suddenly felt cold and cruel. My mother could not speak. My father looked older overnight. People said words like tragedy and so sad. But nothing made sense. Ethan came to the hospital. He stood far away. He cried. He said he was sorry. Sorry came too late. My family could not look at anyone. They could not answer calls. They could not understand how the girl who was meant to become someone great had disappeared so quietly. They went home with empty hands. Months later, my parents spoke once about me at a small gathering. She wanted to help people, my mother said. She wanted to be a therapist. My father added, she was strong, we just didn't see how much she was hurting. This story is not about love. It is about pressure, about silence, about what happens when expectations are louder than care. It is about how quickly a life can break when responsibility is ignored. Some dreams die loudly. Some die quietly. And sometimes, the people left behind are the ones who carry the pain forever. After the funeral, The house felt different. My room was exactly the same, but it no longer belonged to anyone. My books were still on the shelf. My notes were still on the desk. My university bag was still hanging behind the door. Everything was frozen in time, except the people inside the house. My mother stopped cooking for a while. My father stopped talking. They did not cry loudly. They did not scream. Their pain was quiet, heavy, and constant. The kind of pain that sits with you at the table, sleeps beside you at night, and wakes up with you every morning. Relatives tried to help. "Be strong," they said. "She was ambitious," they said. "You should be proud," they said. But pride does not replace a child. My parents replayed every memory again and again. The phone calls they missed. The weekends she didn't come home. The moments when she said, "I'm just tired." They realized too late that tired was not the problem. Silence was. Ethan tried to visit again. My father opened the door and looked at him for a long time. "You don't belong here," my father said calmly. Ethan's face collapsed. He tried to speak, but no words came out. "I loved her," he whispered. My father shook his head. "No," he said. "You loved her when it was easy." Ethan left. He carried the weight of that truth with him for the rest of his life. At university, professors spoke about me softly. Some students placed flowers near a bench where I used to sit. Others avoided the topic completely. Life moved on. But my family could not. Months later, my mother found my notebook, the one filled with letters I never sent. I was scared. I didn't want to disappoint you. I tried to be strong. My mother held those pages like they were my hands. "I wish you had told us," she cried. "We would have chosen you over everything." My father finally spoke that night. "We raised her to be successful," he said quietly. "But we forgot to teach her it was okay to fail." That sentence changed them. Slowly, painfully, they began to speak about me differently. Not as the girl who was meant to become someone great, but as the girl who needed help. They started volunteering with student support groups. They spoke to parents. They told them to listen more closely, to ask real questions, to notice silence. They could not save me, but they hoped they could save someone else. This story does not end with happiness. It ends with awareness. It ends with a reminder that love must come before expectations, that responsibility must follow affection, that silence can be deadly. Some people are not weak. They are just unheard. And sometimes, the strongest thing we can do is listen. Before it is too late. Years passed. The world kept moving, even though my family felt left behind. London changed. The university welcomed new students. New dreams filled the same halls I once walked through. But in our home, time moved differently. My parents never returned to who they were before. They became softer, quieter, more careful with words. They listened more than they spoke. When young relatives talked about pressure, grades, or fear, my parents paid attention in a way they never had before. My mother started keeping my room exactly as it was. Not because she couldn't let go, but because it reminded her to stay aware. Sometimes she would sit on my bed and speak to me as if I were still there. "You didn't fail us," she would whisper. "We failed to hear you." My father kept my graduation brochure folded in his wallet, not as a symbol of ambition, but as a promise. A promise to never measure a life only by success. Ethan graduated and moved to another city. He never married. He never spoke publicly about what happened, but those who knew him said he changed. He became serious, quiet, responsible in ways he never had been before. Regret became his teacher. He volunteered for mental health awareness programs. He spoke to young men about responsibility, about love, about consequences. He never said my name, but I was always there. This story is not meant to punish anyone. It is meant to remind. Remind families to listen beyond achievements. Remind partners that love without responsibility is dangerous. remind young people that silence is not strength. I was meant to become someone great. But before that, I was meant to be heard. And if this story reaches even one person who decides to speak, to ask for help, or to listen more carefully, then my life did not end in silence. It became a warning. And sometimes, warnings save lives.